Welcome. Happy Friday. Welcome to What's Your Story? Each week here on RVN-TV, my guests are going to reveal the story behind their own story. My guests will be authentic. They'll give you insights and practical information that you could put to use immediately on your behalf. Today is a special day. Today we explore the often misunderstood and underappreciated world of public relations in 2018. What has it become? What value does it serve in this social media world? And who benefits from it? Today, my guest is Jim DeLorenzo. Jim is principal at Jim DeLorenzo Public Relations. With over 2 decades of experience in the field, Jim will provide answers to these questions and more. Jim, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Charlie.
Glad to have you on the show, Jim.
Pleasure.
Truth be known, I've known Jim for a while. Fascinating guy. I'm going to start off with a very interesting perspective. I'd like to hear Jim's thoughts on why has public relations become underappreciated or maybe misunderstood?
I think it's underappreciated and misunderstood in a lot of different areas. One of the problems is that in our celebrity-driven culture, there are a lot of people who employ publicists. And publicists are perceived as pushing a celebrity story. Oh. And the business world kind of gets mixed up between publicists and public relations professionals. And our media portrays public relations professionals more as publicists than as actual strategic consultants that work with their clients to tell their stories and work with them to develop their messages and get the story out to the world. One of the things that happens for a public relations professional like me is business owners or executives are content to spend a lot of money on marketing where they're looking at a product redesign or a logo redesign or they're looking at a website redesign. And those things are very important. But where I come in is developing the story and the content that is used to tell that story and get on that website and get in that advertising and the copy that's used. I look at public relations as the art of storytelling and the art of building relationships with different audiences so that you can tell that story effectively.
Why then would someone be reluctant to have you tell their story?
A lot of times I encounter people who have a really good story and they're not aware of it. I like the concept of shelter in place.
What's that? Shelter in place?
Shelter in place, the way I use it is they've got their comfort zone. They're concentrating on their business, they're concentrating on their bottom line, and they're selling at a good spot. They've got customers and clients, and they're content. They don't want to go out to the outside world beyond the people that they're already doing business with and expose themselves to more opportunities.
Really?
And it is a common scenario, especially for a smaller business owner or an entrepreneur who is really concentrating on getting their business to market. And they will take the time to do all these things because that's what they've seen other people do. But they don't want to spend the time investigating what audience they want to appeal to. They might do a demographic research or they might do an initial client search or a customer search and they know, okay, I can get these guys, I can get these guys, but they're not interested in broadening their audience.
So what difference do you bring to the table? What difference do you make for these individuals and companies that others may not?
Well, I like to sit down and talk with people at the business, whether it's the entrepreneur himself, whether it's part of their team, whether it's a department in marketing or public relations in-house. But most of the times it's the entrepreneur themselves. It's the founder, the CEO. And I like to have that one-on-one connection where I can coax their story out of them. I learn more about them. I learn more about their business. I learn more about their vision for their business. I learn more about the people that they're working with. And through that process, I get to know them. I understand what they're doing. I understand their business. I understand their industry. It's very much a learning process. And sometimes I liken it to earlier in my career when I was working in college sports. I would be given the assignment of doing the public relations work for the field hockey team. Well, I didn't know anything about field hockey, but I went out and I learned. I talked to the coaches, I talked to the players, I talked to the officials, I talked to other teams, I talked to reporters who've covered it, and I began to learn, okay, this is what works, this is how I can make this work for this team. It's the same thing with any other business that I may not have any knowledge of. B corporations, for example, it's just a client that I'm working with right now, is not a traditional B corporation, but they have many of the same principles for community impact, social impact. So I'm actually in the process right now of researching ways to tell their story and who would be a good place to tell that story to. So I get that from meeting with the owner, the operator, the CEO, and the people he has surrounded himself with.
Can you share with the audience a story about a client that would maybe in the beginning was reluctant to tell the story, or maybe didn't understand the value of PR?
One of my favorite people that I've worked with over the last several years is a woman by the name of Donna Alley. And Donna is the founder and CEO of Team Clean Incorporated in Philadelphia, which is one of the largest independently owned janitorial services companies. And when I first sat down with her, she was telling me how she started the business, but she had never told that story to anybody else. And I was very fortunate to key in on some of the things that she was telling me and say, this would make a good story to help you build your business.
I want you to hold right there.
Absolutely.
We're going to take a break to hear from our sponsors, but when we come back, I'd like you to share with the audience what difference did PR make for her. Thank you. We'll be right back with What's Your Story?
Did you see the sign?
When I needed to jumpstart sales. Build attendance for an event.
Help people find their way. Fast Signs designed new directional signage.
And got them back on track. Get started at fastsigns.com.
Hey everyone, this is Donna Valente, Sales Performance and Leadership Coach and founder of the Enterprise Sales Institute. Join me every Wednesday at 11 o'clock here with RVN-TV on That Sales Show. On this show, we are going to share with you best practices in emotional intelligence, sales process, and sales strategy with some of the industry's biggest thought leaders. So, don't forget, 11 o'clock Wednesday here with RVN-TV and That Sales Show.
Got a quarter?
Welcome back to What's Your Story? I'm here today with my guest, Jim DeLorenzo, and we're talking about public relations. And Jim was in the midst of talking about one of his clients and how PR, which was not originally in the game plan, when it got into the game plan, it made a difference. So Jim, finish the story.
Certainly.
What's this woman's name again?
Donna Alley.
Donna Alley.
And she's the founder and CEO of Team Clean. And in our initial discussions, we were talking about ways to build her business and to have more customers calling her, potential customers calling her, but also she was interested in recruiting new employees, new people to work on Team Clean projects.
She had a website?
She had a website. One of the reasons I was brought in originally was to help her build up the website with content.
Okay. All right.
And in talking with her, I discovered that her story was really compelling to me, and I thought it would be really compelling to others. And in a nutshell, her story was that she was a single mother, recently graduated from college, could not find a job in her chosen major, And she started answering want ads in a local newspaper on Philadelphia's main line for cleaning houses. And as she started to do more and more answering ads and cleaning more and more houses on the main line, she started to see other ads for other houses, and she would tell her friends that they should, we could do this together. So they started servicing houses all along the main line, doing house cleaning. And I believe one of her customers at the time was affiliated with a local bank, and he had seen that Veterans Stadium was looking for a commercial cleaning company to assist on game days at Veterans Stadium, and they really wanted to partner with a minority business. And he had suggested to Donna, you might want to bid on this contract. I can help you do that. And she went from cleaning houses to cleaning commercial properties, including Veterans Stadium. And she had grown this business to over 700 employees by the time I had met her. And I thought that story was phenomenal because it's a woman who was on welfare, a single mother, African-American woman, entrepreneur. There's so many great angles in that story.
What kinds of people did she hire?
She hired ex-offenders, she hired recent immigrants, wow. She hired welfare-to-work people who are coming off of welfare and working on their first job. So she was really working with people who needed a job and who were hungry to do good work, and she was giving them the opportunity, like she had found the opportunity for herself. And once we began telling that story, and once she agreed that she would like to tell that story, we started to get successful coverage of Team Clean and Donna Alley in local media, in the Philadelphia Inquirer, the Philadelphia Business Journal, 6ABC.
Did you have context?
And it was all driven through the context that I have with these outlets. And I also was introducing her to other potential customers and other potential investors. So I was able to utilize my context to help her build the business. And it was through public relations channels that we did that.
You're very animated about this. You got a lot of passion around this. So simple question, why do you do this? Why do you use public relations the way you do?
I believe in the power of storytelling, and I believe that almost everybody has a really good story to tell. And sometimes they don't have the way to tell that story. They don't know how to tell that story. So I will go in and find that nugget. I will find that human interest story, something that will touch somebody's heart as well as their mind. And I know how to work with them to bring out the messages and bring out that story and then find the audience to tell that story too. And it's something that I've really got a passion for. I almost consider it my vocation, my calling, because I've never really thought about doing anything else since I was a teenager.
You've been successful, you've attracted lots of clients, but my sense is you're very selective about the clients you pick.
Yes.
Can you give us, the audience, an understanding of how you select your clients?
Sure. A lot of times, if I'm meeting somebody for the first time, I like to get to know a little more about them. I like to learn what they've done in life, what interests we might have in common, who they read, who they watch, what interests them. So I'll spend a lot of time. In Donna Alley's case, the first time I met her, I came into the meeting with a briefcase. It was made out of, it was a Rawlings briefcase, and it was made of baseball glove leather. And she saw the Rawlings logo on the briefcase, and she said, "Oh, I love baseball. Baseball's my favorite sport. What do you think about the Phillies?" And that started our conversation. So I was able to connect with her at that level first and then work into other things. So if I can find that connection with someone, then I can find ways to help other people connect to them.
Is there a magic question that you ask every prospect that helps you determine this is the right kind of client for me?
There is, and it's a basic one. It's, are you willing to tell your story? Really? I think you have a great story to tell. Are you willing to tell that story? And when I talked about shelter in place earlier, a lot of times people are content to just sit back and say, nah, I'm not comfortable with that. I don't really want to do that. And we might find another way to go. But for example, a couple years ago, a company in South Jersey reached out to me because they had seen an article about one of their competitors in the Philadelphia Business Journal. And they truly felt that they were better than their competitor, and wanted to get the same amount of coverage.
Understood.
And they found out through the Philadelphia Business Journal, actually, that I had some contacts with them and had done some work with clients that had been featured in the Philadelphia Business Journal. So they reached out to me. I met with them.
It's all about relationships, isn't it?
And I had a very good initial meeting with them. It was a pair of brothers. They were partners in this business. And the one brother was very passionate about what they were doing, and the other brother was kind of laid back. And I should have read the room a little bit differently then. If I had to do it all over again, I would have read the room differently. But I agreed to go out and pitch the Philadelphia Business Journal on doing a story about them. I reached out to a reporter that I knew, set up a meeting for them. We were in the room together about a week and a half later, and the two brothers started arguing about why are we doing this. They didn't want to do the interview. One brother didn't want to do the interview, and the other brother did. And the big sticking point was, oftentimes a reporter from the Philadelphia Business Journal will ask a subject about their recent revenue. And that was like asking them for the nuclear codes.
Oh.
And that ended the interview right there, and that ended my relationship with them right there, because I told them that if you're not willing to divulge those things, you should have told me beforehand. But ever since then, I've often asked that question. I said, if I'm going to go after the Philadelphia Business Journal, or I'm going to go after the Wall Street Journal, or I'm going to go after some other aspect of the business press in particular, do you feel comfortable telling that about yourself?
So that was really a pivot point for you to help you select clients that are a good fit for you.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. I have some more questions for Jim, and now a few words from our sponsor. Thank you.
RVN-TV is a platform for people of any industry to share their story. Over 285,000 viewers are tuning in to RVN-TV shows monthly. We guarantee a great experience that you'll be sharing with everyone you know while increasing your personal and company's brand awareness. But what is your brand? According to Forbes, it's a combination of your logo, your product, your design and feel, and your personality. Did you know that aside from being a guest, we offer even more opportunity to boost your brand? Adding your company logo and website on screen during your interview will allow viewers to recognize your brand instantly. Incorporating images and video clips is another great way to showcase your product during your live segment. Let viewers see how good you really are. And most importantly, there's you and your interview. For less than the cost of a newspaper, direct mail, or a magazine ad, you can leave our studio and within 48 hours have a permanent digital copy of your live segment to link to your social media, embed into your company website, or use in email marketing. Investing in your brand is so very important, and we can't wait to have you as a guest.
Welcome back. I'm here with Jim DeLorenzo, my guest on What's Your Story. And Jim's sharing his story about public relations, his life in public relations, and how his service benefits those businesses that have made a decision. They want their story to go public. Jim, I want to circle back to your story.
Okay.
And you worked with US Interactive. You demonstrated how PR was very instrumental in them getting the visibility so they could eventually attract the dollars and eventually go public.
Yes.
Okay. At that moment, you pivoted. You went into your own business.
Yes.
Why would you do such a crazy thing, Jim?
When I was at US Interactive, I joined the company in early 1997, and I was the 35th employee hired. And my charge from the two co-founders was to get them as much attention as I could to earn them more business, to earn them more coverage, and to have a successful IPO. And the internet was a hot property in 97 and 98, but it was one of those things that people didn't quite understand in the world of business. How can I make money with the internet? Yeah. So
big trust issues around that.
Right. There were a lot of trust issues, and there were a lot of concerns about, how is this going to work for me? And what I was able to do, especially in 1997 when I when I got the ball rolling, was to tell the story of US Interactive, the two founders, the four principals beyond the two founders, and why they were passionate about the internet and what the internet could do for business. They were one of the pioneering businesses in the internet space. I mean, they had been doing websites and online advertising since 1991. So they were really the first ones out there doing this. And I was able to tell that story first through local media, such as the Philadelphia Inquirer and the Wilmington News Journal and the Camden Courier. But I was then able to leverage that to a feature story on the front page of the Sunday New York Times business section in the fall of '97, which really put them on the map. And people began to call us and say, we want to work with you. So we were getting the attention of Fortune 500 companies and major brands that said, okay, we need to start in the internet space, and we're going to work with you guys.
With US Interactive? With
US Interactive. And when the company went public in the summer of 1999.
I remember that IPO was hot.
It was a very hot IPO, and it was right at the top of the internet bubble. And I had been getting calls from the company's clients and some other friends and colleagues in the business asking how I did this for the internet. How did I use the internet to develop public relations strategies? And at the same time, a publicly traded company is less dependent upon the public relations personnel and more dependent on the internet investor relations people. And I began to see my role in the business was going to be changing, and I was getting these calls from people, and I said, well, why don't I do something to help these people like I helped US Interactive? So I started my own business right there.
Anybody going into their own business is told, make sure you have a market where there's a demand for that which you do.
Right.
So you had developed this, you became the subject matter expert. The transition was smooth.
Yes, it was very smooth, and it was very important to me that I was able to bring that same level of attention and consideration and interest to these other companies. Some of them were smaller web developers, or some of them were software companies, some of them were pure technology plays, whether it be hardware or software. And then as I started to grow and do more with them, I was able to attract the interest of other types of businesses, whether it be professional services, whether it be team cleaning, janitorial services, whether it be, I was able to get back into some sports-related businesses at that time as well. And I also worked with book authors promoting their books. So I was able to use some of the skills and ideas that I had developed at US Interactive and parlay that into other subject areas.
I hope the audience realizes how critically important PR is going to be in their growth strategy.
Yes.
They often mistake that social media and email marketing or blogs, etc., replaces that. But you need somebody to help uncover the stories you have and the stories behind the stories to do that.
And I think social media, email marketing, blogs, websites, television, radio, commercials, print advertising are all very important parts of it, but they're just tools in the trade. Marketing is a discipline, advertising is a discipline, public relations is a discipline. And I've been very fortunate to work with people who understand the value of public relations professionals developing the messages, getting the stories told that then can be repurposed on social media, can be repurposed in a blog, can be repurposed on your website or any of your online or offline advertising.
Jim, we're going to wind down now.
Okay.
I really appreciate how candid you've been and some of the stories that you've shared with us.
Thank you.
I want to announce to the audience that you're also going to have your own show here on RVN-TV very, very shortly.
Yes, that's true.
What's that going to be called?
I'm going to be calling it Press Conference.
When is it? When will
it's going to start on Monday, September 10th, 3 o'clock here on RVN-TV.
And your first guest?
My first guest is the legendary Villanova University football coach, Andy Talley, who recently retired from coaching after 30 very successful years at Villanova.
What's his story now?
He started a foundation 10 years ago devoted to building the bone marrow registry around the country.
Really?
And he started it at the grassroots with college football players, because that is the most desirable demographic for bone marrow donors, is that 18 to 21-year-old male, female demographic, and also the fact that he had access to these very healthy athletes who would be interested in donating bone marrow if the case came about. So he built this foundation over the last 10 years, and now he's working there full time to build the Andy Talley Bone Marrow Foundation into a national foundation.
So remind us, when's it going to air?
Mondays, 3 o'clock here on RVN-TV.
And it's a live.
It's going to be a live show.
This is the point in the show where you get to ask something of the audience, who really appreciated your candor, your authenticity today, as have I.
Okay.
So I want you to turn to the camera and ask a favor, make an offer.
Well, I'd like to make an offer, and that is, if you are interested in what we talked about here today, and you have a company that you want to promote in the media to the world at large, I'd love to sit down and talk with you and learn your story.
How do they get in touch with you?
You can reach me on Twitter at JHD16, JHD16. You can reach me by email, jim@jhdenterprises.com, or you can call me, 215-266-5943.
Would you repeat that?
215-266-5943, jim@jhdenterprises.com.
And if somebody sat down with you, what are they going to get out of that conversation?
We're going to have a conversation. We're going to have a dialogue, and I'm going to learn more about you, and I want to learn more about what you're doing, what you're interested in, and then hopefully you'll learn something about me and decide, you know, let's keep the dialogue going.
That's fair. Again, thank you all for coming in on this Friday afternoon, listening to my friend Jim DeLorenzo. Hopefully today some of the fog has been lifted around the area of public relations. We'll be here again next week on RVN-TV at 1:30 East. We look forward to having you tune in. And again, I will have a guest who's authentic, who'll give you insights and actionable information that you can act on immediately. Have a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in.